No? Stop? What?
Go!
You're killing me. Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and I'm trying to do now 3 things at once. And as Beezy's waving at me, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So this is part 3. And I'm hitting the go live button now. So we should be live on YouTube.
We're live.
Yep, it says we're now streaming.
We're streaming too, not just screaming.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just jump right back in, eh?
Hey.
Let's go.
Okay, yes, go for it.
Paragraph
We're
8.
on number 7, right?
8. We did 7.
8. Oh, that's right.
Okay. So 8. The European Union failed to take the same precautions and restrict travel from China and other hotspots. As a result, a large number of new clusters in the United States were seeded by travelers from Europe. So for me, the first underline I made was the European Union failed to take the same precautions. Again, if one isn't just single tracking on the linear and the purported focus, which is only mentioned once and lowercase. So it's talking about the European Union failed. And the precautions that they didn't take, that people within the European Union or going to the European Union didn't take, it is essentially failed. And this is the process that's bringing it down. We'll get to a part later where it talks about the travel ban and why the United Kingdom is exempt because it has Brexit and it's not part of the European Union. So, you know, as I said last night to you, Sheila, my geography may not be that great, but even I know that the United Kingdom is part of Europe. Yet it's exempt from all of the Europe stuff that's, you know, now talked about in this coded message.
Well, it's actually it's not, it is coded, but he's got EU, the Union, right here in this one. And UK is no longer a part of the European Union itself because of Brexit.
Right.
So, yeah.
So again, this is talking about distinct systems and structures, entities, and coalesced, cohesive structures.
Right.
And embedded in which are the foreign virus and the virus. Both the virus, capital T, capital V, and lowercase, capital T and V.
Right.
And then the next part that highlighted for me in the rest of that sentence is and restrict travel from, so China and other hotspots. So for me, that is speaking to factions within the Illuminati and within the different business lines, transaction lines, product lines, because I actually just referred to a lot of things that have different heads, different different aspects of the business, with the overall business being the financial slavery, but there are different lines within that. Something that I've been saying for a long time, a couple of years now in these videos, is that when you see transparency fully come through, some won't, but many will be quite surprised at how thoroughly intertwined, interconnected, and inseparable from every system, every structure, every commodity, every supply chain, purported just you think are normal supply chains, that the financial slavery and the trafficking of all sorts, human all the way down, DNA, all of that, is not only on planet but off world as well.
Yeah, and for those that are new to us and this channel, which you may not know, is that the three of us covered Executive Order 1381. Is it 1813? It's been a while since I.
1318. 1318. I know you should know it right off the top.
Yeah, I will get the right one, but it's the one that deals with human trafficking and slavery. And we did quite a bit of decoding of that then. And I want to say that just as a reminder for those that are kind of new here, every single one of us fall under that, and it's and in the complicit portion and in the trafficking, the trafficked portion, and in the slavery portion, from my view. Every single being on the planet. So, you know, we early on, this, for me anyway, and being witnessing this progression has just been phenomenal. So it's very, that just kind of goes to what you were saying there, BZ, for me.
Yeah, 13818, December 22nd, 2017.
Yeah, 13818. I hadn't said it out loud for a while because I'm telling you, when that first happened, I was going out, well, were you aware?
Yeah, I wrote down 18313. Just trying to remember it. That's so funny what I did with the numbers there.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard of or you don't know what,
that you're under a state of emergency already, and
yeah,
have been since December 22nd of 2000. Actually, it came out on December 21st, 2017,
that's right.
And it had just clicked over when I was putting the post up, so it was now the calendar was reading the 22nd, but yes,
right.
On the 21st.
So absolutely, it.
And we did that as well. That was one of the documents that we went through and had a conversation.
Right, which I'm going to link in this particular video. Actually, I'll go back and find our conversation and link 13818 conversation in this particular video when we're done. Okay, so I wanted to say for me in regards to number 8, there's a lot in this, and I wanted to ask you, BZ, actually, because I had a sense when you were speaking there. Yes, there's different factions within the cabal that are sort of fighting each other as well while all of this is going on with the rest of us. But I had a sense that these hot spots that may have been, because he names the union, but so there are other, and that's alluding specifically to where those that may have been already practicing a little self-isolation or whatever, I don't know, you know, trying to get away and squirrel themselves away. I don't know. I had a sense of that myself anyway.
So what was the question?
Did you have a feel? What was you, I guess, what is your specific take about the hot spots? It's like, I don't know, there's something there and it hasn't fully come in for me.
Well, the hot spots, you know, again, it's layered in the sense that it comes through. So yes, the European Union, not only the conglomeration of, you know, country states that form the European Union, that's a totally different topic. First, I would say, when I say European Union, I'm talking about the corporate structural entity which is a front-running tentacle of the New World Order, as a thing of a hotspot, different than those country states that make up the thing. So if you looked at a map of the European Union, you'd say, oh yeah, this country's in it, and this country's in it, and that country isn't in it anymore, and this one thought about leaving, and right, you do that. But here, he's talking about the European Union itself as the entity, as the cohesive structure,
Right.
that is a control mechanism through. Then he's also in the same vein, because it's within the same thread that he's giving forth, again, layers. So there may be just the obvious layer, on the beer thing, but this is going far deeper than all of that. So from China, okay, so in China, what do you have? You've got the dragon societies, you've got the two wings of that. You've got, again, the structure of the Communist Party and the old line into, well, oddly enough, it's Communist Party, so they don't want to have worldly things and all that kind of stuff, consumption, except that globalism is absolutely their trump card, their version of the thing. So that's, again, so those two structures are matching up, because there are deals made so that China could be the economic superpower and could actually invade and take over all the world without firing a shot, which was the thing. They, up until recently, what is it? December year ago, they owned all of our ports.
Yeah.
And Trump went into negotiations and took all of those, the actual control of all of those back. So a lot of these things that people have no clue about, just like they're now finding out that a predominantly large portion of your toilet paper and medical supplies are basic, we're talking rudimentary things that need. So if they're gone, you're up the blank without a paddle, right?
Or without toilet paper, as the case may
There you
be.
go. So that, and the other hotspot, so again, it's kind of, because it's multidimensional, the China and other hotspots. So there were the dark to light, there were the let's say he's referring to the lines of the hotspots prior to and the strength they were in. He's also talking about the hotspots that are coming in the reveal, that are coming in the absolute data downloads. So Ukraine is one of those hotspots.
Right, I gotcha.
Right? Because of all the things, Ukraine is an encapsulation of all the things that had gone on, right? And multiple levels and layers, and that is being revealed now, and that actually is now going on with that inversion. So the dark to light, because the Ukrainians are doing it where the new government has run on the platform of the transparency and bringing it forward. The other thing I think a lot of people may not understand is that the Ukrainian is a tip of the spear, a very large spear, but nonetheless just a tip of the spear of the whole. Again, this is a product line and something that has been going on for many, I don't know how you say, decades. So it's more than 5, 6, 7. It's been going on for a long time. But it's not just Biden's son. It was a cash cow for, if you look at all the, you've got Kerry and Biden and I'm forgetting, I think there's at least 4, but it goes beyond that. Then there was also all of the CIA intervention and the slaughter that actually the whistleblower took part in I believe it was 1,000 or 1,200 Ukrainians who were slaughtered with our weapons from our directive under, not under this president, but, and so those are the hot spots. So in other words, it's interesting. This document does this a lot. Not only is it multidimensional and layered, but this isn't quite right, but what comes to mind this moment is it's juxtaposing. So, or maybe one can perceive, understand, and decode if you realize that it's a juxtaposition of what was and the dark to light, and all that was going on not only was actively happening, also actively being revealed, and also actively being known now. So, and that's with the foreign aid and all that kind of things, what people are going to see is that a fair percentage basis would be, excuse me, 87, that's probably low, 87% of all foreign aid would go out and be laundered and come right back in to players in the United States.
Yeah, people's pockets, let's just be clear.
And I would say 80%, well, and corporations, so entities pockets is good, and some were carbon, crystalline based, and some were not. Some were,
Right.
So I think 87% is pretty low, but you'll see that that's across the board.
Yeah.
Ever. Any foreign aid, so go back to the time when foreign aid first started. From the moment, that's why it was started. It's not that it's broken and there were a few bad apples. No. That was the design of why it was started that way. So that's some of the hot spots, again, that he's referring. I mean, you could go on to a lot of them, but
right.
But that's a way to, again, this paragraph is informing, is giving forth, it is about the beer thing. It's about all the levels and layers. It's also a warning. It's also
that was my next thing. That was my next thing, because the very next sentence I felt was, I see you. As a result, a large number of new clusters in the United States were seeded by travelers from Europe. And I had the distinct feeling that that one in particular was a nod to, you didn't escape my notice or our notice, or, you know what I'm saying? It's just,
right. Yeah, that was underlined. I underlined that seeded by travelers from Europe as well. Just the way you're talking about as a note. Remember, we talked about different audiences that this is going to.
Right.
So yes, it's that. It's also, you could look at it the other way. Remember, Lisa was talking about how it's organic. So something is given and then received by, right? So there's an in-breath and an out-breath. So yes, there's a, there's also seeded, but the seeding, right? This is a notification that there was seeding done. By travelers from Europe. So they're putting them on notice that there were, pocket cameras, if you want to use that as a euphemism, that were seeded into all of the different boardrooms of the company lines over there, and we have the cameras. So just to wrap up that part of it. See what I'm saying? So
right.
So now you start to see, and you go and you think, the essence of the document is such that unless you're working really hard to deny your own, it has nothing to do with me or anything else, it has to do with your own knowing. If you're working really hard to deny that, something like that is positive for you, and all of your being can click right. In fact, my been willing to guess that you're having your own, whatever you would call your videos, come in that jumps forward, and the information, little bits and pieces is being filled, and you're going, and you're noticing, and you're going, oh, look at that. Because that's where we are right now, how rapidly that it takes place. It actually refers to some other things as well, but we covered some of the main points of that.
Right. Well, I want to jump into the chat here real quick and acknowledge Kevin Westring is in the house. Welcome, Kevin. It's good to see you take
Hello.
part in this. That's awesome. And there's a couple of questions in here that are being asked that I have to say personally, I don't think anybody knows about how any of the financial stuff is going to work out just yet. I feel personally that that's all coming, and we're going to get to some of that as we move along here in the specific paragraphs.
Right, and new data points have revealed themselves today. So
yeah, so
you can take the weighting out of your vocabulary.
I see. Oh, okay. Well, okay. So see, as I said, all I know is I made pico de gallo today. That's all I know.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And it was darn good.
Oh, thank
you. You didn't send me any.
We got to develop that hurry transporting stuff. You know what I'm saying? Lisa's women's got to come.
Working on it.
Right? Okay, so, and there's a lot in here about the post office, and I know that there's a lot going on right now in the field with war castles and the David Wynn Miller stuff, and how, but I'm not quite sure how all of that plays into this, because I really don't think I understand all of that just now. So I guess that's all I can see right here at the moment. I'm so glad that it looks like almost everybody came back. We have 12 folks watching. Carpe Diem came back. CC came back. Team Trump. Fawn Denmark. Thanks, guys. I'm so glad that you did. Feel free to put questions, comments, talk with each other. BZ came to me in a spirit dream last night. Just walked on in. From Kevin Westring. Well, she's got a tendency to do that, as she has been in mine as well. So, well, see, that I kind of alluded to that before. We'll have to get together with Kevin and do a dream space. BZ must have been a problem at the post office or something. BZ got it going.
We caused a lot of problems with post office. They were, you can go find the tracking of all of the. Anyways,
that's right.
That's all the financial. That's on the financial piece.
That's right. All of those shenanigans can be found on the i-uv.com.
Right.
That will also be in the finished show more section of this video. For those of you that are joining us that are not aware of the IUV, everything that has to do with what is going on planet Earth right now, that these
and not
yes, on the planet and off,
and all that is.
That's right. That has to do with the financial slavery, and all of what's going on here is being archived for all at the IUV, and that's a really good place for folks to go to get information about a lot of stuff. So
yeah, because as data points reveal, you go, well, that wasn't happening, and you can just go through and go, oh yeah, that's from 19 whatever. You can see that it's been it's data that's been captured so that people can, because there will be a lot of overwhelming things, and people may think, well, where was it, or that's not so, and they can see. Then once you get into different positions and frequencies expanding of waking up, it's that flow chart, it's that reverse flow chart. Then you can see all of it, and it brings you to the point. That one, that's actually reminds me of something from part 1. I think it was a comment you had made, maybe Lisa and Sheila were referring to how, depending on where people are in their, you had talked about, Sheila, about conspiracies and stuff was where your entree into waking up, right, and all that was, and so people are different places. One of the things that this document, this codex, does is that it does meet you wherever you are.
That's exactly what
And it takes your hand and walks you across. What's happening is it's walking you across the Rainbow Bridge. It's walking you across that frequency bridge. The beauty of that energetically and multidimensionally, because you are the only one who can precipitate that, you are the only one who can give the command to invite that. It cannot be done to you. So you must elicit that. But when you do that, using the analogy, this is what made me remind me to go back to this, using the analogy of the reverse flow chart, it syncs everything up for you heretofore. So you go from 0, just as an example, 0 to 75 in less than a nanosecond, and you are actually up to speed. And any other data points that may not be in that initial, kind of coming in, transmission in of whatever that one prong, that one point of data, that one story, whatever it is, that brought you up to speed, as soon as you look to avail yourself of and connect with any other, you instantly at that up to speedness. Does that make sense?
I think so. Lisa sort of alluded to that when kind of early on in our relationship, because there are those who have been at this waking up game for 30 years and more that are sort of weary of it. And then you get the little young upstarts that are walking around knowing absolutely nothing and come in and within a matter of I don't know what a year or less are right there in the thick of that expansion, and so but that speaks to a lot of different things. It speaks to all the work that's been being done within each's 30-year field, and speaks to that ripple thing we talked about before, that 100th monkey effect type of thing as well.
Yeah, and the path pavers that
Right.
slogged it out in the denser frequencies, right, and didn't give up and kept going and kept laying those paths and the bricks by brick by maybe a quarter of an inch of a brick.
Yeah.
and went through all that, and it did change everything.
Yeah.
And then them walking on, taking a step, even a toe on the path, exponentially spreads the path.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to jump to 9, paragraph 9.
Yepper.
After consulting with our top government health professionals, I've decided to take several strong but necessary actions to protect the health and well-being of all Americans. So anything come forward for any of you all on that?
Not on this one specifically, but I do like the way he's saying professionals. He hasn't singled out doctors only.
And that's someone else. If someone wants to go and count while we're going through these and talking about this, if someone has it in front of them, wants to go and count for me the number of times that doctors specifically, as opposed to health professionals as reference, I think you'd find that very curious. No, I mean someone in the chat that you find it very interesting. That's a noticing and an aha.
No, exactly. That's why I said I think that we'll see even further on in here that part of the reasons why, but
right. And I believe the CDC is not mentioned at all.
Only once. Only once. Only once. It's in paragraph 15.
Well, I really liked how he says, I have decided to take several strong but necessary actions to protect health and well-being, because that speaks for me directly to the mind virus. He's spotted what's happened, and earlier I wanted to add in the seeding part, he sees that it's been seeded, so it's specific, it was by design, if you will, and that he's taking action. And, you know, I think that speaks to the universal cleanup here.
Absolutely, because if you think about a seed, right? What's encoded in a seed? You have this tiny little thing, let's say it's an oak seed, and encoded in that seed is a 100-foot tree.
Right.
With a circumference of 35 to 45 foot, depending on the variety in the seed. So again, that's a wonderful way to highlight seeded, right? The encoding is in there, and the transformation of that coding once it's called out, because once the light has shone on it, it transmutes and transforms the coding of the seeding. Yeah.
And you can see what grew from it. It was informed by us, who we say no thank you. Coronavirus, thank you. And it has to respond accordingly. And we are responding.
Right. Yeah. Right. And then the one may think, well, protect the health and well-being of all Americans may be simple. Yeah, it's about the beer virus, so you're going to think that. Well, again, it goes a bit deeper than that, because you could just say health, you know, because health, especially in a linear society, is just, it's doctors and pills and, you know, tests and all that kind of stuff, and fix the symptom, forget the being, and, you know, you go for it. But this is well-being, which is speaking to the whole multidimensional component of who you are and the truth of who you are. And all Americans, not just the sick ones, not the ones that, and all Americans. So even the ones that are the rat bastards, right? So it's, again, that inclusiveness, that dark to light that wraps it all, because I'm sorry, but that's the only way we're going to get to the completion of this chapter.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wanted to say that Team Trump actually pointed that out specifically. He said in the chat, health and well-being is a different meaning than just, and so yeah, that's absolutely right. And like you said, all Americans, he's not just saying those that are ill or those that are the good guys, or
those that deserve it.
Right. Right.
Everybody.
Or that are hardworking, or any of those kind of, you know, in this sense, they might be euphemisms for those, the segregation, the polarization, right? The duality and duplicity, actually, that has been inherent for and a lot of these kinds of things. If you go back and just look what we've covered so far, the other 8 paragraphs above this, and we'll see more of this as we go on, but it's also setting the very clearly, and actually the things that are happening across the board just in the last maybe only 12 hours, not even 24 hours, of things that have been put on hold or canceled or constrained or whatever, that related to, you know, the beer thing, with that as the ruse. It's setting the stage very, very tangibly and clearly, and orchestrating that there is not a fixing, there is a completely new burgeoning of something. It may be similar to what was before, or the perception, I think, is more to the point, the perceivedness of what was. So maybe the perceivedness of educational type system, the perceivedness of different forms of entertainment, the perceivedness of perhaps Department of Justice, or those kinds of things. It is not or the monetary system, financial system, but it is not, you'll feel the energy. It is not at all related to a reset. It is, or a fixing of, it is a completely new thing. Just as Team Trump had pointed out that health and well-being is a completely different, not only in a purely linear sense, connotation and context than the medical establishment, right? Because it encompasses, in one way, a much broader thing, but also a much more pointed, focused, energetic thing. Just in that same way, all of these things are he's signaling all of us, the team, so the collective, is signaling that what the new earth that we've all been creating for quite some time is now laying the foundation is laid, and the I would say the wide aperture, meaning many eyes can see it now, of the fruition of the beginning stages of that materialization is now coming forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, agreed. Yep. So we want to move on to number 10?
Yeah. To keep, so I have the very first part of this underlined, to keep new cases from entering our shores. So again, for me, there is a big punch, a big highlight on the shores part. And one of the things that, Sheila, you and I were talking about before we started one on camera, what came to mind is there have been a number of stories of cruise ships, kind of being held at bay, either still out on the seas or in port. But that's a huge form of transportation and mode of delivering of product, i.e. human trafficking, is the cruise ships. And there are particular lines that are industry leaders in that.
Sure.
But it happens on many of them. And so that's one of the things that highlighted. And new cases. So new cases, again, of this foreign virus, the capital T and V virus, and the lowercase t and v virus. And, for good measure, throw in the beer virus as well. But that's, again, what this is speaking to, because of the ways that that their product, their commodities, it's also the organ trafficking, it's the DNA trafficking, and our shores. So again, don't just think of the round blue planet and the beaches and shores here, but this planet and offshore, off-worlding shores as well.
Right.
So again, it's multidimensional, and I think I made a couple heads explode. What, that last one? We will be suspending all travel. So that's interesting, actually. That was meaning a bunch of things to me last night, but right in this moment, tied into what I was just talking about, shores here, that's also that's incoming travel, and any exodus travel off-world has also been clamped down and is under review. So you could think, well, okay, the big headline was travel to Europe or the European Union, right, has been stopped for 30 days. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a few coordinates, but there's a whole pile more coordinates that aren't just on the circumference of the blue planet. So,
sounds like my phone agrees with you, B.
Yes, indeed.
Right. And again, from Europe to the United States. So Europe is in a geographic region. Europe is also a bloodline structure within the companies. Europe is also a faction of upper middle management to upper middle management. And so you could look at the travel would be any downline travel from their MLM above them. So from their controllers above that middle management, which is off-world. So, but it's flowing through. So in other words, that's an indication, just like, well, where's Europe? You can plot it there on a geographic globe, but this is a multidimensional, it's frequency globe, so it's also bloodline globe, so it's also modes of of the roots that that virus, again, if it's a foreign virus, so that could be off-planet virus, it could be an
Yes.
AI, it could be lowercase t and v or an uppercase t and v, as well as, you know, the beer virus. So that's what I see in that first part. Just on that first sentence, what do you guys see?
Well, from the first sentence, I don't have much different from what you got, except for, you know, it was the second sentence that I got.
Yeah, right.
So,
Well, that ties into the first one. But Lisa, anything up for you on the first part?
No, not any further than what you got there. I saw it as all travel on all levels.
Right. So the new rules will go into effect Friday the 13th I added the 13th, Friday at midnight. These restrictions will be adjusted subject to conditions on the ground. So we'll take the first sentence because the second one is telling and related directly to what the first one is tied to, which is related to Europe, which is related to the war games, which is related to the lockdown, which is related to the travel ban, which is related to the go orders that were precipitated today. So Sheila, you want to lead off with it? I think we're going to say the same thing, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, we probably are. The new rules will go into effect Friday at midnight. Well, everybody knows tomorrow is Friday the 13th. So let's just get that out there. And what you may or may not know is that historically, Friday the 13th is the day that all the Templars were rounded up and put to death that could be found. Back in the 1300s, I believe it was, by a specific pope that kind of turned on them, and you know, because they had gotten a little too powerful and whatnot. And so for me, that was kind of interesting that it's that date and that it's at midnight, number one. And number two, just now as I was getting ready to read it, what actually came in was just those two words, new rules. Because there's lots and lots and lots of new rules that are streaming into this planet and making it known, to making itself known to an awful lot of humans. Not all of us, and I count myself in on this, are fully, totally right up here in front, what I say, grokking all of these rules, but we get it. We are feeling the newness of things that are changing, coming in and sort of coalescing, if you will, but not exactly solidly yet. So for me, that specific, I don't know, there's, again, I can't put it into the exact words that I feel about that, but that coupled with the knowledge of what took place historically on Friday the 13th, it's sort of a, I don't know, there's a lot of different stuff out there about the Templars, what they were, what they are, all of that. But there's something specific about it for me.
Right, and also a lot to go with that is that a lot of people say, "Oh, Friday the 13th is bad; it's bad luck." No, that's an inversion, so that you do not recognize the power of, and in a very expansive, powerful, expanding consciousness way. It also is an incredibly auspicious and powerful portal for amplifying and hyper enhancing powers, and is used as a negatively polarized marker for all sorts of rituals and festivals and gleanings of things. So for me, what that's saying is not only it's a demarcation, but there's also, this is once something is called attention to, it is then thwarted energetically. So there was something planned for this Friday, the 13th, coming on the heels of the week of the full moon,
Right.
the end of the Mercury retrograde, and the whole kerfluffle and whatever with the beer virus, and because the loosh generation was, even though we got toilet paper apocalypses and all that kind of stuff, it was not generating the loosh that was hoped for and intended, in addition to all of the other focuses and intents with starting this campaign, with the dark side, the dark starting this campaign. So those things were already set into place. There was signaling from the White Hats that with the contingent going over for the war games, then that this would happen. For remember, Italy, in as much as the government. So again, look at the reverse flow chart, right? So look back. So Italy had flipped in so much as the government, because it was part of what was in cahoots in the Five Eyes and the FISA, in the spying and the thwarting of what was going on. They did flip. They did come clean with Papadopoulos and all that. With his testimony, that's why Bill Barr went over there. That's why can't think of Connecticut guy, the prosecutor. Horowitz went over, and it's not coming. You can see his face. Anyways, why they all went over there and took all those meetings, and so Italy flipped and started to give much more information and much more help, and so there was a tip-off in there of something planned. So again, all of these things lined up to send a message or to be revealed. But this is also calling it ahead. So he didn't announce, President Trump alluded to, so think about how things again work with signaling and telegraphing. So the remarks happened on Wednesday. He telegraphed on Monday that just after the meeting that he was having on the Hill with GOP senators about big information, some of it was financial, big information would happen on Tuesday. Okay, so from an operational standpoint, the dark said, okay, we've got to get in, this is a go, we've got to have something happen Monday night and Tuesday to thwart that or to get things in. But they're meaning White Hats are looking over here, we can still be a go with our 13th plan. But nothing was forthcoming from Trump and the rest, and it seemed to kind of, well, there's no there and all that. If you look at when he actually announced, I believe, I'm a bit off on the timestamp, but because I don't have it in front of me, but the timestamp for his tweet on Wednesday that he would be addressing the nation tonight at 9:00 Eastern did not come until 3 p.m.-ish on Wednesday. So a very tight, narrow window. And because we own the airwaves, they must broadcast an Oval Office address. That's part of their airwaves licensing that they have, meaning all of the networks and all of that. So that reason for that window being so tight was all of the things that were in play on both sides, actively and slated for this week. Does that make sense?
Yes, it actually does.
And the new rules is, again, it's a finger wag. New rules, new sheriff. This shit's not going to go on anymore. And also, again, to all the constituency that this document is addressing. It's also directly related to all beings who are making that choice to stick with what they agreed to do and to stand all in to their creator beingness, that the new rules, the new energy, the new frequencies, the new power, it's not coming to me the right way to say this, the new power pack, the new things that you may not even realize have come online within you heretofore in this end, you know, the big with the full moon and all of that spike in energy and ushering in. Those new rules will go into effect on Friday for you as well. So remember, we started this whole Friday the 13th discussion that it's a huge powering vortex for what's going on, and always of the light, always of the source. It has for eons and throughout time been twisted,
Right.
and kind of glommed, it's not the right word, glommed onto by negative polarization. But so this is also an indication for each one of you, right, that those new rules go into effect. And
Well,
that's just one of, there's many layers to that, but that's just a few of the layers.
you're calling for me to mind the information that, you know, that I had forgotten about in regards to, well, we all know that the power of the collective co-creative abilities have been usurped, and, you know, and that is used absolutely. And so what you're saying there, and I know too from you know, well, you know, my foray into Laura Walker's information in regards to, you know, the 13th, it's in and of itself, and how they do use all of those symbols, twist them just enough so that they can then use that co-creative twist to their own designs.
Yes,
And
and I just want to interrupt you there for 1 second, because you had mentioned a little while ago about how, you know, people coming new and waking up, and what happens, what's a very common thing is they come into it and they don't know the full range of the story, the full range, and how deep and complex and layered it all is. And so they look at something like Friday the 13th, or they look at some of these symbols and they think, oh, that's bad. So anybody who has that, and they just, perhaps naively or perhaps lazily, however you want to phrase it, or knowingly, but that's also embedded in the design of it from the inversion process, because
exactly.
then those new initiates, those new waking uppers, right, those new expanding consciousness look at that and go bad, and then get thrown off the track, the flow, the being able to plug into actually the inherent power and expansiveness of that. And it's another win for them.
Right.
Because now you're off going, oh, that's, you know, got a hex on that and all that kind of stuff, not educating oneself, not even listening to all that information, because you're the expert. You have access to all of this right here. You don't have to go anywhere else or look at anything to see through the subterfuge.
Right. Well, and that's the thing I wanted to speak to in regards to the 13, is that, you know, it was not always that way, and it is so that there are many who are aware that the 13 is a very powerful and very amplifying day and number, and I mean, you know, and quite frankly, wow, this actually, in regards to the new rules, in regards to that, feels rather huge and powerful in a lot of different ways.
Right.
You spoke to, we all have, and everyone that I've witnessed posting and asking questions in regards to, oh my gosh, can you feel those energies coming in? I'm getting downloads all over the place, and we don't, any of us really know the full extent of what we're getting. We just know we're feeling it coming in. And this is what I feel like that you're referring to. And that actually brings a whole new meaning for me to the next sentence. These restrictions will be adjusted subject to conditions on the ground.
I was going to say, so that last sentence, again, multidimensional, many layers, but you could look at the most important part, talking to you. You're on the ground, and how you're, subject to adjustments made, subject to you on the ground. How's it going for you there? What's going on? Are you hanging on? Are you strapped in, and you're rocking it off, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just about you. That's why I do feel like this is such a huge multi-dimensional thing.
Yeah.
All the way around. Lisa, did you have something on this one?
Well, actually, so when I felt the new rules too, I felt like, yes, he's establishing, this is it, like a delineation of the old is over and this is the new. And then I got to the Friday and I didn't remember it was the 13th at all. And I thought to myself, I wonder why he chose Friday. It must be very significant. And then immediately the two of you answered that question so thoroughly, my head is spinning. I thought, wow, that is so brilliant on so many levels. Yeah. I just see the deliciousness of it all. It is, well, it's so intricate and yet so perfect. It's just so, I don't know. It's really, really fun.
It's actually really sweetly simple, and it is complex, and there's lots of nuance to it. But if you stand back for a minute, and again, not observing or judging or labeling, but just noticing, there is this, speaking to it last night, and a couple times, Sheila could really, we're getting to the pieces that more of the signals, and this is a big signal. The rules. The new rules will go into effect, is speaking to the financial slavery coming down. Mm-hmm. Coming down, changing over, birthing into its new thing, and transparency of what was, again, that reverse flow, so people can start to see it. All simultaneously in different iterations and amount of spread of flow of information. So one folder has this information, another, it's laying out. And again, that the restrictions will be subject to the conditions on the ground. So this is a very, not only is it an energetic, but it's an eternal essence document. Mm-hmm. It truly is. And, could be, you could say, could be misconstrued as mostly linear languaging, but it's not, because the receiver, that is you, if you shut this part off, is going, hot damn, it's about time, let's rock and roll with this, right? And then this turns back on and goes, it's just all this fuss about a beer virus, when you kick it. It's not. So it's really helpful to play with that, as we talked, Sheila and I talked about this last night, where you turn it off and invite it to be your ally and be your number one. So you're second in command and subject to in absolute powerful assistance to the high heart, which is direct soul conduit, that these new rules are referring to, as it flows down and multidimensionally to all things, all systems, all layers, all of everything.
Right. I wanted to say here, because I don't think this pertains to any of you that are in the chat right now. So let me just be very clear about what I'm about to say. Um, I heard someone, and there'll be someone in the future that will hear this, and there'll be more than one, but it's not you guys. Let me just be clear. Who's saying, what in the hell are these women on about? This is horrible. This thing is here to kill us. And if that is the perspective that you are choosing to take, I get it. You're fully within your rights to do so.
All the power to you, and strap in because it's coming quick.
And that's cool if that's the way you want to be. I will tell you something from my point of view, my point of view only. I personally feel like I create my own reality. It is a hell of a lot more empowering for me to see what I see here and feel what I'm feeling here and move forward with all of this, with this in my field. And, so.
And you can effortlessly, should you feel the need for corroboration for yourself or confirmation, or someone patting you on your back saying that you're going in the right place, however you want to look at it, you can find delineated, linear, tangible, verifiable proof on all of these things that we've been talking about that aren't, anything but linear, delineated, tangible things.
Yeah.
Black ink, white paper, right? Audio files, video files, all that kind of stuff. So,
yes, and a lot of it on the IUV.
So, and the other thing is, Susan, most of what we've been talking about is actually given the weight, the gravity, the gravitas, the grandeur, the amazing, explosive, radiant transformation nature and power of this codex. The conversation, given all of that, at least from my perspective and the way I've been giving voice to it, has been pretty damn ass linear compared to what's coming off of this thing.
Yeah, same.
Just say.
Well, we're at the 1 hour mark. So how are you ladies doing? Do we need a break? Do we want to break and come back? How do we want to do? I want to check in with everybody while you guys are thinking about that.
What if we do 11 and then take a break here? So do one more.
Okay, we could do this one more, sure. Paragraph 11, go ahead.
There will be exemptions for Americans who have undergone appropriate screenings. And these prohibitions will not only apply to the tremendous amount of trade and cargo, but various other things as we get approval. Okay. Speaking strictly linear to the person who had that previous question, I underlined undergone appropriate screenings. I underlined, or what more the point, what it highlights for me, the text changes color, and then I just mark it with a black pen underline. The next part was will not only apply to the tremendous amount of trade and cargo, but various other things as we get approval. So just on those, so there's 3 words together. There's, and then the last third of that sentence. Strictly from a linear standpoint, you could go into great details, point to things already out there in the public sphere. I won't say on MSM, some of them is, right? That's if you want to look there for some things. But right there, that's very hugely weighted and big stuff is being talked about there. Oh, I was going to let someone else fill in.
Well, no, you can't say it. You cannot make a statement like big stuff is being discussed there and then crickets. No, that ain't how that works, BZ. Come on. Bring it.
I was waiting for the the crickets who were chiming in before about, okay, so there will be exemptions for Americans who have undergone appropriate screenings. Yes, you could look at that from just the beer virus. You can look at that from financial screenings, background screenings, plea deal screenings. Okay, so that's just so you start to see how if you connect with and be subject to the energy frequencies of these things open. Someone's going plea deal screening. Okay, so when you hear a lot of, maybe if it could be seemingly go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry. I something that just came in. Y'all heard me get a text a little earlier. I had somebody texting me that Justin Trudeau has had earlier today self-isolated due to exposure. And now CNN is apparently reporting that he is now tested positive for the coronavirus. And for me personally,
right on time, baby.
Right on time.
Right on time, man. Right on time.
So it's, again, is it that, or is it a plea deal? Is it,
No, it's extraction. It's right on time. Someone said it's fascinating how the people who who have the coronavirus either like are vagrants, don't have anybody who ever missed them or fess up that they ever knew them or had anything to do with them, so they're easy to, or the uber wealthy and really high powered, like the Pope and Tom Hanks, and there's a whole bunch, right?
yes, right?
And then you have the trolling ones who walk through the halls of Congress with this gas mask or sleep in his car for self, isolation in a Walmart parking lot, or some of these other ones that are trolling this so that people can see the juxtapositions, because the noticing and aha factor is very helpful. It's a tool. Going back to a conversation that all of us had a long time ago, it's a pickle. How do you wake up everybody and tell them that everything on every level, every layer, every system, every structure, everything has been a lie? Talk about a mind blank, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to do it in different ways. And if you can have really demonstrative, ludicrous things and a juxtaposition of them, right?
Yeah.
Then you can see that. And so in the last, the Pope was a little while ago, but just between last night, right on cue, and today, so watch, and you're going to see them speed up all of a sudden. And they're not going to be, some poor homeless person or whatever that's going to get the thing.
No, exactly. Yeah,
And
it does feel like perfect cover in one way, doesn't it?
No, it really does. I don't know, the perfection of this script is just so delicious. I can't even stand it.
Yeah, it is. And
you can feel the multidimensionality in all of this, from the appropriate screenings to the prohibitions to the tremendous amount of trade and cargo. I mean, he's really alluding to the whole thing right here in this one paragraph. We see what it is, and we raise you. No, no more of this nonsense. Effective Friday.
And various other things as we get approval.
Woo!
So again, that's a direct inference to alluding to not only on planet but off world. and the supply lines and the commerce.
Well, you know, I don't know why this came in, but just now something else came in regards to various other things on approval. It wasn't that long ago that in one of his rallies, and this was, I believe it was before all the absolute pushing of this pandemic thing, that, you know, there were technologies that were going to be released that had to do with health, that had to do with other things.
Yeah.
And so
he was pulling back from his inauguration speech, and it was the fake impeachment hadn't concluded yet, and he was putting that in some of those.
yeah, exactly. But I for some reason that came in with the various other things there for me.
Yeah. And so the appropriate screenings is one that'd be a whole conversation on its own, but as I was starting to talk about when you gave me the Trudeau, you know, the plea deals, and you can see those all over the place, and that actually we'll do as a whole different conversation.
Yeah, I would love to do that, because, you know, we're seeing that play out on the world stage hugely.
All over the place.
Yes, hugely.
Yeah. All right, so that's pretty much, I mean, United Kingdom, obviously, just calling attention to that. That's a couple things. I'll finish up on that. Is the restrictions will also not apply to the United Kingdom. So a couple of reasons. Obviously, it's seceded from the European Union with Brexit, so that's part of it's not there. Also, there has been a seed change in that with the treaties, some spelled out specifically, some spelled as a ruse cover. One of them would be that this last 4th of July that we had, July 4th, 2019, was actually the first Independence Day that we have celebrated. Ever.
Yeah, that is something that I had was alluded to all over the place. There were a lot of decodes to a lot of the pictures that were taken and things like that, showing that indeed, you know, that the crown no longer actually had claim to the United States. A lot of Americans that will hear this will say, well, we've always been. No, sorry. No, we haven't been. The crown has always actually still retained, I don't know how you want to say it. You know, we belonged to them through a whole bunch of different kinds of ways that aren't exactly.
Well, yeah, direct law, quote unquote, laws and treaties among them. But anyway, so that's part of what that's referring to, because of the situations on the ground, again, from an energetic basis, from an embodiment decision choice point basis, from system and structure choice point basis, plea deal basis. So that's one of the reasons that's called.
Right. I want to answer Fawn here, because she says no one has mentioned the money Trump mentioned. We haven't gotten there yet, but believe me,
it's big. It'll take, you know, just 1 or 2 paragraphs in there. There's a lot and that kind of stuff. And
yeah, because there's a lot in that one.
Yeah, more stuff has come through today with things that happened with the Federal Reserve and everything else. So that ticket's been punched, that clock's been rung, the bell's been, you know,
yeah, part of the reason that I was very interested in doing this with the two of you is exactly that, Fawn, so that you will know. This particular document for me signals everything.
Yeah.
Every system, every
it's all going down. It's all going down and it's all coming up. Like it goes like this, simultaneously. And if you are thinking, well, I changed my mind, too bad. You're gonna have to hop off the planet and
and that's why it's all metaphor too.
Far away to play in, because
Yeah, what you just said there, BZ, about it coming down and going up all at the same time. That's why I really feel like all really is metaphor. It is because it's not just ascension. We're having ascension and descension, even within ourselves. And that is exactly what's taking place all at one time. In the 3D level, the old paradigm is going down while the new paradigm is coming up within each one of us. The what I call right here consciousness is ascending, while my higher consciousness is actually descending into, pulling itself into this physical vessel. So it's all playing out on all kinds of multidimensional levels for us all to see. We're at 1 hour and 20 minutes, ladies. Did we want to wrap this one? Okay. And I know it is after 11 o'clock here on the East Coast. I don't think you've even had anything to eat yet, BZ, because you came straight from work. I think this one will be the last one for tonight. If you both are in agreement with that, or are you both energetically strong enough to take a short break and do another? VZ and I were up pretty late last night. It was after 3 a.m. when I got to bed. So I'm okay either way. So I leave it to you ladies, and because I'm not quite sure when BZ you're going to have available again either. So,
well, I have food to be good. I have actually a lot to do left over from work, but this is my job right here. So I'm game for at least 2 more paragraphs in here, because we can do them short and they're important and they're good.
Oh, you want to do it now? That's fine by me too.
No, I was going to say break this and come back and do that one.
Okay. All right. Sounds great. So
those of you back for one short one for just a couple paragraphs, and then we'll do more.
Okay. All right. So those of you who are enjoying this and want to take a break with us and come back, we'll do this again. We're going to shut this down, let it start rendering, and then I'll just go live again in say 5 or 10 minutes or so we can all hit the ladies and whatnot. Till next time.
See you soon.